If there's one dish that I associate with afternoon tea, it would have to be scones. I love scones, particularly buttermilk scones with jam and cream. I just adore them. But I'm going to show you a savoury option, which again also work really well for an afternoon tea or a little savoury snack. Now to start, you need 2 cups of self-raising flour, and this is what I love about scones. They're so easy to do and you need minimal ingredients. Also 1 tablespoon of sugar. I'm using sugar for this because I really want to accentuate the flavour of the pumpkin. So that's the flavour that I'm going to be using in my scones. We also need some salt. That also brings out the flavour, and it's very important when you're baking. So dry ingredients first in 1 bowl and use your hands just to mix this up. Now the self-raising flour is important for this because this is going to give our scones that light lift. Now I'm going to use a little bit of butter, 60 grams of butter, and I'm going to grate this directly into the flour and sugar mixture. This butter has been frozen. I find this little tip really great because it's going to ensure that our scones don't go too tough or like little rock cakes. Now for the buttermilk, that's about 1/4 cup. And then in another bowl, I'm going to start mashing my pumpkin. Now I've cooked my pumpkin in the oven, in the skin. I always find that it retains its flavour by baking it like this, and it just makes it so much easier. So scoop it out. This was cooked in the oven at 180 degrees for about 30 minutes or until it's tender, and this is a butternut pumpkin which has so much flavour. You want about 1/2 cup of roasted pumpkin for this, and I'm just going to mash it with a fork. You could also use sweet potato for this recipe, works really, really well. Okay, now with a fork, you want to get that as fine as possible. You can do this in a food processor if you like. And I'm going to season this with a little pinch of salt, just a little bit more. And I'm going to add some cheese. So this is just freshly grated cheddar cheese, but Parmesan also works really well for this. And one last mix. And that's as simple as it is. All we need to do now is bring the whole thing together. The trick to scones is not to overwork the dough. If you overwork the dough, you're going to get rock cakes as opposed to really light, fluffy scones. So start with your hands and just mix in the butter. And then I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients, so our pumpkin and cheddar mixture. And Auntie Iris would always tell me, cut your scones as opposed to mix them with a spoon. So just very gently cut into the mixture and fold. She would also always say you need the touch of grace when you're making scones because that'll ensure they're going to be perfect every single time. Once you start to fold it in and cut with the knife, you can get rid of that and then use your hands just to bring everything together. Now have a look at this mixture. You can see that it's a little bit sticky and a little bit wet. That's absolutely perfect. Also, you can see that it's been marbled with that pumpkin. I love that because when you bite into it, you'll have little bursts of sweetness from that pumpkin. All right, now I'm going to add a little bit of flour to my board. And then we're going to take our mixture and pop it straight onto the flour and just bring it together. And with a rolling pin, just again flour that slightly and then just very gently roll it out to about 2 centimetres thick. You can use your hands too. And now we can start cutting out our scones. Now have a big bowl of flour on standby, and then this is about 5.5 centimetres wide, this cookie cutter. We're going to cut some beautiful scones out of this. This recipe should make around 14 to 15 scones. So just carefully take them out and then pop them on a lined tray. And my oven's on at 200 degrees and they're going to take about 15 minutes to cook. It's also a nice idea just to brush the scones with a little bit of milk so they go nice and glossy in the oven. Now the scones are out of the oven. They've been cooling for about 5 to 10 minutes How good do they look? You can see how much that pumpkin has stained them. They're bright orange. These smell so good too. Now, I like to serve them when they're still warm, but of course you can serve them when they've cooled down. And I'm gonna put them on this bright plate. I'm gonna open one, so cut one in half so you can see inside how soft and tender the crumb is. See that? See how moist that is? Just a perfect scone. Now, I like to serve these with sour cream. So a nice dollop. And I better taste it to make sure it tastes. Yep, it tastes absolutely perfect.